ASM member Jeff Wright and China Haas, the founder of the Working Class Student Union, debated on issues concerning the proposed ASM Constitution at Memorial Union Wednesday night. Mr. Wright expressed that a change in the Constitution would only better student government, while Ms. Haas believed that a change would decrease student group funding as well as worsen ASM, grassroots organizations, and the student body as a whole. If the new structure of ASM is passed, Haas argued the president would possess too much power, especially with funding. She believes the president would veto student group funding because of personal biases, which is not viewpoint neutral.
And so this process is actually going to delegitimize viewpoint neutrality under the new Constitution because one person would have the authority to veto a budget. And so they don't really have to justify their decision to anyone. They have no check in place for them tangibly that they can give a reason. It's versus, kind of I just want to back up for a second. Looking at the current SSFC or looking at appropriations, if they violate viewpoint neutrality, they're sitting in a room with several other members who go, hey, that's VPN violation, you can't say that. Versus the president, no one's sitting in the room with him or her thinking, watching them think or listening to what their thoughts are about why they're vetoing that budget.
Wright counter-argued that the president cannot veto individual group budgets. The decision has to be kicked to a conference committee to work out funding disagreements.
The budget processes work really well right now. We didn't feel a need to tamper with them at all. And there are protections against abuse in that the student council or the student senate and the president would not be able to amend budgets. That's really important. The power to amend budgets only resides within the Appropriations Committee.
About grassroots organizations, Haas expressed doubt that the president could represent the diverse groups on campus. She also said lack of a strong executive encourages more democratic participation.
I would say that the reason that current ASM members are finding this difficult to understand and not really getting how the grassroots works with the rest of it is because at the heart and core of what they do, they're not organizers and community activists. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just different skill sets. So I think part of the reform for ASM is, yes, it is kind of a broken system and it needs a little help, but that's not coming through structural change. That change is going to come through very minute, nuanced change within the current structure, improving communication within the student council to the grassroots of committees, really supporting that bottom-up approach to organizing versus that top-down, having the president kind of dictate what's going on.
Wright disagreed and believes that the current grassroots organizations show no activism and a president would organize activist approaches carefully.
Our grassroots committees are not necessarily accountable to the student council, to the student body right now. And I think if you were to look at the projects that ASM has advocated on over the past 3-5 years, you'd see that the issues aren't salient. And that's because they aren't clearly vetted. There isn't sort of a process by which those ideas are fostered. And the new Constitution guarantees that the Senate is the body responsible for thinking of these campaigns, thinking of what ASM should be doing, and then forwarding that on to the executive to carry out.
After the debate, the audience asked the representatives questions covering future student turnout and what would be the worst-case scenario if the Constitution passed. Both groups expressed their thoughts after the debate had been adjourned.
If the Constitution were passed, I do think it's important for the current council members, including myself, to look to see how we can address some of the problems. But I just don't think that even with all the ways that we can work, we can make ASM a little bit better, but we can't make the stride of improvement that this new Constitution offers students.
That's great. And
well, I mean, since the power of the president is such a threat, we'd really be working to get our people in that power. While we wouldn't want to have anyone have that much power, preferably we'd want to have somebody who could make some difference instead. So that would be our first step.
And if it isn't passed, what would be your first step to make student government better?
I mean, look, same deal pretty much. It's all about getting the right people in power, and it's all about getting the right people in government who can really do something to make a difference. Because I think one of the reasons why participation and why student population doesn't care so much about the ASM, why you get such low voter turnout rates, it's because the ASM really hasn't done anything in the past few years, and students want to see their government actually speak for their rights and actually get some stuff done.
My name is Ryan Hednell with the Badger Herald.